Hi, Brandon Hilliard here with Taste of BPCC. Now we have James here. James, what are we cooking today? I see we have a pork chop here, but that's all I know. So what are we going to cook?
Well, sir, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be cooking a very hearty pork chop with a sweet pepper mixture. What we're also going to be doing is with the peppers, it's going to be like a homemade, almost like a marinade or a glaze that goes with the peppers.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So let's go ahead and get started. What's our first step here?
Absolutely. The first step, make sure this is nice and warm, all right? Because you don't want to cook with a cold skillet, all right? Because the moment you do, the meat won't, nothing will caramelize, nothing will be actually good. So now I'm putting a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in that.
So that's to fry the pork chop, correct?
The pork chop is actually going to come later. Now you see how it's smoking? That's actually a good sign for these peppers. So we're going to put pepper.
It's a little bit of green pepper. And what kind of onion is that?
That is a sweet Italian onion.
Sweet Italian. What's the difference between that and red onion? I know that they look the same, so is there a big difference between those two?
They look the same, only a sweet Italian onion is going to be a little bit smaller. It's going to be about half the size of one, and the taste is actually going to be much, much different. Now, the reason I use the sweet Italian onion is it's going to give it that nice taste, and these onions are going to give it a very nice color.
Okay, so there's a sweeter effect to it, correct? Okay.
Now, I know the people who are watching this can't smell it, but this is actually starting to smell very, very nice. We're going to keep stirring frequently.
Yeah, it smells amazing right now. I can attest for that one. It smells really good right now.
I appreciate it, sir. Now,
I can't wait. This is going to taste amazing. I can already tell because of the little bit of vegetable that we have in it. Those onions. The onions. I love onions. I love especially sweet onions. They're amazing. So.
Well, you're in for a treat, sir. Now, if you can see, the onions are starting to get clear and translucent. That's very good. That's also the sign that what we need to do is add a little bit of this red wine vinegar. Now, be very careful because if this thing's too hot, it will splatter.
So now it's kind of a simmering effect.
Now it's
to those.
simmering because you can see these bubbles coming up right on the side of it.
Okay.
Now.
So what is that doing to the onions? Does that have an effect on them?
Yes, it's breaking down the onions. It's actually staining the onions because where they were clear and translucent before, they're actually starting to turn a nice, good, deep red to them.
Okay. So the red wine vinegar has more of a purpose, more than just cooking it down. It has a tint to it, correct?
That's correct. Now, as you can see, the green onions, I didn't blanch them, I didn't hard boil them, so what they're going to do is they're going to have like a really bitter kind of taste to them. So that's why I brought 1 tablespoon of sugar. Add that into it. Now that's going to help with the taste of the green peppers, and what that's also going to do is help break down the onions, where now more of that sweet taste is going to actually come on out.
And now it smells even better because of the sugar. So we're going to have a little bit sweeter, and that bitterness is going to go away with those peppers.
That's correct.
I like that. That's gonna be a nice addition to that pork.
When it comes to this, you get your cake and you eat it too.
See, now I always thought sugar caramelized things. Is that what it's doing, or is it?
It is in a way. It's caramelizing those onions, but the primary thing we wanted was to break down the bell peppers and cut that harsh taste out.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna cut my fire down a little bit. And I'm gonna add just a teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon of this extra virgin olive oil.
That's a pretty good measurement right there, I think. Stir it a little bit more, so we gotta keep it mixed up, right? Can't let it burn.
This taste is now filled the entire room. It's very, very sweet, very earthy. That's how you know you're doing a good job. And you want to hit it with just a little bit of salt and pepper.
So pinch here, pinch there?
Pinch here, pinch there. That's it.
Got it.
That is done. can see. Now look at that color. Look at that color, look at that sauce. Now this is actually going to be going over the pork chop.
Oh, that looks really good right now. And it smells amazing. It smells even more amazing than it looks, actually.
Okay, what you're going to want to do is take a little bowl like that, set aside, because what we're going to be doing, now I don't know about anyone watching this, but I absolutely hate, after a nice good meal, you have a little army of dishes standing there waiting for you. So that's why I always try to use the same skillet every time.
Oh yeah. You gotta keep things in the same thing. That way you're cooking up some of that juice in there too, right?
Absolutely.
So you get a little bit of effect on both of it. I
That's
like it.
just remain a little bit there. I'm gonna take a clean rag and wash most of that stuff out. It's still gonna have a little bit of taste in it. Now put that back on the skillet, put that away. I'm not gonna use that again. Put a little bit of olive oil on it. Now, make sure to coat the pan, but don't put too much olive oil on that. You don't want the pork chop to stew.
So we want it to just be enough to not stick to the pan?
That's true. Now, someone might be asking me about this pork chop. Why did I cut the fat? Right
I was wondering that earlier. I see the 3 cuts that you have there.
So that fat is called the rind. Now what you do is you cut that rind, and it's going to stop that steak from doing this, because you're probably eating at a restaurant or something, and that pork chop has come off. It looks like a little bubble.
Yeah, it's got a warped effect to it.
So that can be prevented by merely just cutting through that rind. Not cutting all the way in the steak, but just cutting through that rind a little bit.
So just breaking up that fat to where it expands and shrinks on its own. Okay.
Now, just take a little bit of the salt and pepper, push it in there.
Can I make a rub type thing, or?
Hit that on both sides.
So whenever I rub down steaks and meats, I usually try and get the whole thing. Is there a point to just doing the center of it? Does that make it?
Yeah, sir. The center of it, I just try to do just that, because the salt and pepper, that's just pretty much, that's not the main focal point of this. What's going to be the main focal point is the regular seasoning.
Okay.
Now, as you guys can see, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put the steak in, but I'm going to be laying it away from me like that. All right, don't ever lie toward you. That splatter will hit you and it'll be pretty bad.
Yeah, I've been hit by that splatter a couple of times. It's not fun.
I have various burns underneath this. Now, you're going to want to add your thyme and your garlic very early into this, okay?
Oh, so now we got a little popping action going on. I'm sure they can hear.
Oh yeah, there's nothing to be worried about.
So why do you put the whole clove of garlic in instead of crushing it and chopping it? Is there
primarily because I want the smell of the garlic. I want the smell of the thyme to actually be on the pork chop. I don't want people to be eating the garlic and have those little bits of garlic. The garlic.
Okay.
Again,
So
it's just for the taste alone.
Okay, so it's more of a aroma almost that gets into the pork chop. Okay.
Now, we're gonna let that cook for the pork chop about that size. I'd say about 3 minutes to 3.5 minutes on each side.
Okay.
I like my pork about medium well.
Okay. I'm the same way. I don't like to chance it on pork. Now steak I like a little rare. So.
Now, gonna want to keep moving this because you don't want to stick to that pan.
I can already smell that thyme radiating through it. It's kind of like a pine tree smell to it. It smells amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like Christmas time.
I actually remembered that we were also supposed to bring in this with butter, but we'll just have to make do without it.
So what would the butter do in this case? Would it?
Butter would actually even make like a little bit of a glaze on that, and if I had a spoon, I can baste it and make it go a little bit quicker.
Oh, okay.
Along with actually keeping the pork chop moist and all that. All right, so take it, we're gonna flip it. Now, what people don't know usually is that the reason why food sticks to a pan because they flip it too soon is because this little crust hasn't formed. And that crust is going to naturally lift that food off the plate.
Okay. So that little bit of that browning on the edges makes it come up, right?
Right.
Okay. Then you
take that, press it against that.
So right now you're just kind of making that go into the pork, right?
That's right.
Cook through it.
Get a little bit of this garlic. Press it through. Most important part about this is you do not want to let that sit too long and burn. Okay.
So
Take a little bit of your basil now, because basil cooks very, very quickly. Because if I were to put that in the beginning, it would have burnt, it would have had a very bad taste to it.
So what is the basil going to do on this? Is it going to give it a different flavor, or is it going to be...
Basil will actually add a little bit of flavor to it. Now what I usually do is I put the basil right at the tail end of this vinaigrette cooking. But because this was a little bit of a thicker cut of pork chop, I'm going to add to it now, so it actually helps the flavor.
Oh, okay.
It's smelling very, very nice.
Yes, it is. It smells amazing.
Now that is almost done.
So is there a science to cooking a pork chop, or is it mainly just time?
It's
I know it's supposed to be a specific temperature, but what?
like matter of fact,
How do you tell?
Like everything determines the way when pork or beef is going to be done cooking. So there's no, oh yeah, just throw it on the grill and it'll be done in 2 minutes. No, that's very, very hard, because like this heat could be different than another stove. This pan could be made out of a thicker metal than another pan.
Okay.
Best way to tell when pork and beef, when anything is done, simply with your hands. Because what you see, if I want to tell, like, okay, let's say I want this medium well.
Okay.
3 fingers there, touch. You see how firm that is? All right, see, I can tell that's about medium. 2 fingers, all right? So, this is how you can tell. This
2
is
fingers.
rare. This is medium rare. All right, medium rare 1 finger, medium 2 finger, medium well 3, and medium and full done, well done is 4.
Okay, so that it's all about the tenderness of the outside of the meat. Okay.
That's why you can really not tell when, you can't tell just by a rough estimate, oh yeah, 2 minutes. All right, now, look at that.
That looks amazing. It's got a little glaze to it, I guess from olive oil. Is that correct?
A little bit of the glaze from the olive oil and all of that. Now, another key.
Oh, that smells really good right now. I can smell it even more now that it's right under my nose.
Now, another key of cooking a really good meat, really good anything really, is to let it sit for as long as it cooks for. Now, people say like, oh, is that to get the juice in? No, because the chemistry, the science that you were talking about, whenever food hits the skillet, whenever it's cooking, the fibers in the meat are tight. They don't move, there's nothing, but let it rest for about as long as you cook it for, 2-3 minutes. Then what happens is that meat has now, the fibers in the meat have now relaxed, they're calm. And if you were to cut into that the moment I take it off, juice and everything would go spilling out. The stuff you want would go away. But if you let it sit for maybe another 60 seconds or so, it's going to be a delicious juice in there. Now, this is where it gets good. Because now that this is rested a little bit.
Sweet onions.
Sweet onions. Spread it along there. I forget the butter, I forget a spoon, a fork.
Hey, but at least it works. It'll work.
Necessity. Now don't be stingy with that glaze, because that's where all the flavor is. Now look at that.
And it looks amazing.
Yeah. As I said before, we had to let that meat rest, and now it is fully rested.
So it should be good and tender,
It should be very good and tender.
All right, so we're gonna try this now. I can't wait to try it. This just looks simply amazing. And the pork color is perfect in every way. I'm gonna get a little bit of these peppers on here. A little bit of that sweet onion. That is really good. That sweet onion is amazing, and the peppers that sugar made it not so bitter. I love this.
All right.
I will have to cook this myself.
Absolutely.
Might have to throw a little twist on it though.
By all means.
Well, that's all the time we have for Taste of BPCC. Thank you, James.
No problem, sir.
That was amazing cooking. That was amazing food. Well, I guess that's it for now. We'll see you next week.